Well, there you are. And here I am, together once again. If you look at the work I've been doing, work, work, work. No rest for the wicked. Um, yeah. Mm, anyway, yeah, so there it is. I'm gonna. I think I will just clean up some pages until we start getting people in the chat. By clean up, I mean I'm gonna do some erasing. I am the hey Splattercat, awesome dude. Thank you so much for coming. I hope I'm not interrupting your day. It's great to have you here in the company of friends. 'Tis a good thing. How was your Thanksgiving, buddy? Hoping it was good. You got any snow where you are? I don't know quite where you live, so. Guess who's here? Oh, look at that. Tux Art is here, yay. How we doing, kiddo? What time is it where you are? I'm curious. I know you're on the other side of the world. It's kind of interesting. It sort of reminds me when I lived in Asia. Hold on, let me read here. Okay, Splattercat says I haven't been getting notifications when you go live. Now that's really. Is it YouTube or what is it? I only know because you sent me a message. That's very weird. Let's see what this says. All right, we got to show this. Talk says, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Woohoo! All right, I love that little Lady Liberty icon you put in the chat. That's fun. But yeah, here we are, and there you go. Tox, have you been doing your art? I hope you are continuing to work on your manga art. You get better. You got a lot of skill and talent, and I always encourage people on their artistic path. So that's good. But yeah. Yes, good. Wonderful. Very nice. So I am very close to finishing this graphic novel, which is pretty exciting. We have launched the website and people can buy the book, like what's called pre-order. If you go to New Delphi Media, DELPHI, New Delphi Media, and click on graphic novel, it will take you to a link to pre-order the book, and then you can be one of the cool kids on the block. Let's see, what does Talk say? Yes, but my exam not gonna leave. Yeah, I know, it's school. What are you studying, by the way? What's your major in college? I was a fine art major. Ooh, fancy. But yeah, I remember in high school looking at, I took like a test, a vocational test. What would you be good at? And I'm like, screw that. I want to be an artist and a musician. I don't want a job. Who wants a job? It's just gonna make art and music all day. Job, schmob, forget about it. Anyway, I don't quite remember what my aptitude test said, but I did sign up for the fine art major, and I was one of the best in the class. I'm just gonna say that, okay? Sorry if you think I'm arrogant, but I simply was. Anyway, moving on. I'm studying arts, so basically I want to be a lawyer. What's the connection? Arts and, I wonder if there are, lawyers for the arts. Probably there is, just for, you know, people who spend millions of dollars on paintings or something. Anyway, so I will be studying law after college. Wow, that's brilliant. Good for you. I just was at a party on, I think, Friday from a friend of mine who's a lawyer, and that was very good. So you gotta have lawyer friends. They help you with stuff, they give you advice on important things. And this guy is like a good guy. He's like not a scumbag lawyer. I've known those as well. But yeah, it's good when you find people that have a real moral compass and are not sociopathic. That's nice. Isn't that nice? It's so nice. Yes, it is. Yeah, I have a couple lawyer friends that I go to once in a while when I'm like, if somebody's harassing me in the comments, what legal actions can I take against them? No, I never asked that. I'm kidding. Because I don't care what people think. Sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, I care, but I'm not gonna crumble if somebody insults me. I do, actually, I do genuinely want, like, real criticism, though, like heartfelt criticism. Like, how can I be better at everything, you know? And there's a difference between opinion and, like, you really should do this or something, and this would be good if you stopped saying that, or you start saying this, or did that, did you do whatever. But I'm wide open for help in that regard, because it is help. You know what I mean? When I used to teach art and we would do a critique, I would explain, like, criticism and critique are not the same thing. So you have to separate your ego and your emotions from the work, which for artists, frankly, is hard to do. They put their heart and soul in their work a lot of times, and they just take, even for people who are not genuinely artists, but are doing some kind of artwork, and it means a lot to them personally. If you're like, well, your paint handling is messy, and you should try to use more contrast. Like simple things like that. Like they'll have a meltdown on you. Like, I'm not your friend anymore. Just calm down. What's cool is in the arts, they say that you only ever paint one painting in your life. It's just over multiple canvases. Oh, isn't that sweet? It's very, like, Hallmark gift card wisdom. The wisdom of Hallmark. That would make a great book, or like a spoof or something. The wisdom of Hallmark. They'd probably get their lawyers after you, though. So yeah, this is a story. I think this is kind of a delightful little scene right here. Kind of neat. Anyway, let's move on. Wow, so let me check the chat a little bit. I'm gonna turn the music down. It's too loud. Chat. What do we have? What's going on? Lawyer. In my country education system, you have to study arts to become a lawyer. That's crazy. It's not about art. It's, you can say, humanistic. Oh, you mean liberal arts, I think is what you're trying to say. In English, liberal arts is a kind of a huge area. philosophy, sociology, psychology, history, understanding, just being human, I guess. Um, da, da, da. Tox says, I have big plan. I will become lawyer, and beside that, I will sell my arts, make content. I will become bug influencer. Awesome. You mean big influencer, but that's beautiful. And I'm very happy to hear that. Let's see what we got. My main man, Rexus, is here. Says, I'm honestly thinking of starting to draw. Ooh. There's an artist I like called Hado. I like it must be Japanese, I guess. Rexus says I like his style, but he sadly mostly makes smut. Okay, I could hire him, but I know he won't like what I stand for. Eh. Rexus says, so I am thinking of copying his style by tracing and learning how to draw that art style. Fascinating. Let me jump in here. I was an art teacher for many years, right? So I can give advice. Oh man, I've had so many people tell me to do an art class online. I mean, I obviously would have to charge for that. But one of the techniques that I used when I was learning how to draw comics was I got one of those transparent, it's basically called tracing paper. And you can get a pad, or you can get pads of that stuff. It's like a semi-transparent paper. And I would put it over comics, all the different parts, like, anatomy, faces, shadows, whatever it was that I wanted to learn. And I would trace it very carefully, and I did pages and pages and pages of this as a form of study, because the hardest part in the arts is trying to understand, like, what is the thinking behind this? Like if I just look at this image right here, like what is the thinking behind this? So you've got, the dude just like punched the robot's arm off over here, and it's the end of the fight, and the characters arrive, but this robot says, I'm going to now activate the nuclear bomb that's inside me. And so there's a little, kind of a flash at like what's coming, sort of, like this nuclear bomb. And then he's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, he's getting ready to go off. But it's just I wanted to emphasize this guy. Like he's one of the key characters in the Alliance. He doesn't. He starts anyway. I'll just get to the point. So, showing a kind of like a medium close up of him carrying the arm off, just shows what a badass he is. Like how confident he is. His shirt's been torn in battle. This robot is behind him. It's falling to pieces. He's clearly, looking. Oh, thank you, Tox. Appreciate that. And then the way that he's carrying the arm, like just like it's just so light, like it's a bag of groceries. It just shows how damn strong he is. A little bit of shadow in there. It's a shot from a film. Like this is the kind of thing you'd see in a film, I think. So there's like cinematography involved. There's storytelling involved, where you have, you know, these people are arriving on a scene where this is happening. The eye reads left to right. The way that the wing is kind of coming off camera, and the way that he's kind of like holding her hand because she's just dropping him off, and the look on his face, anxiousness, but yet he's reaching forward because he's going to be going into battle in the scene. How do I explain all this stuff? I can't. There's just too many details. But then there's the topic of like, how do you fucking draw? Like, how do you make this look 3D? This is not real human anatomy. This is comic book anatomy. one of the first things I learned when I started actually talking to real professional comic book artists is they said that comics are an exaggeration of reality. An exaggeration of reality. So don't worry about being photorealistic. Instead, come up with a style that you like, that's unique to you, that is an exaggeration of reality. That's what's fun about it. That's why we like it, because it's bigger than reality, it's more than reality, it's super realism, you know. Anyway, I'm talking like a madman here. Yeah, game over, cool. Let me read some. So I'm thinking copying style. Or we can just kidnap Mr. Kent. Yes, and then I will be the art slave, and I will have to teach, and you guys will become the great next generation of artists. What else am I trying to say here? So let's read. Easy peasy, game over. How do his Canadians? So already I know he doesn't like our views because Canadians in general are more left leaning. It looks so good. Okay, so hyper reality. Yeah, you could say that. I will steal him. Okay, hey, Chief Moody. I was really hoping that you would come to the show. That's so cool. I'm really glad that you popped in, buddy. What's new, man? What's going on? How are you doing? Give us give us an update on Moody World. That would be cool to know. What is shaking in your world? We're just talking comics over here. I guess if I could get, I don't know, maybe is that something I want to invest myself into? So my whole gig is that when I'm done with this, I want to get back to doing my comics, and so like taking time out to teach, to design and teach an art class is kind of cuts into my art time, if you know what I'm trying to say. Because I mean, I have a full-time job. It's not like I'm doing this full-time. Yes, it would be great to do this full-time. That is the dream. That is the dream. But anyway, I suppose I could do a couple workshops if you want. If you want to like arrange a workshop day or something, that's a damn good idea. Holy crap. Sponsored by New Delphi Media. Get your copy of The Alliance. And now for our workshop. Ooh, I like that. I like the thinking. See, it's called marketing right there, folks. I'm not as dumb as I look, okay? So shut up. All right, let's read. Who is here? Holy cow, the party is starting. It is going crazy out there. Drinks on me, everybody. Woohoo! Hey, Donald, I might have asked you before, but what pens do you use for drawing inking? So let's do a quick little lesson here. I'm going to read some comments, and then I'll get right back to your question. First of all, the mighty Krusty Pirate is here. Hail to you, sir. Tuck says, I got my style inspired. Oh, come on. Inspired by me? No, that is such a sweet thing to say. You definitely have a style, though, and I think I admire that. I got to tell you, there's a lot of people that are just copiers, but you put a special spin on your art talks, and that is respectable. So I'm giving you compliments. Okay, so take the compliments. So the key, okay, we'll get to this in a sec. Krusty says, how is Old Man Winter treating you? It's not bad right now. I got caught in a little bit of a snowstorm driving home last night. Looks like I'm starting a new band, like a new music project. I gotta just get this out of the way. The lighting isn't really that good, but these are called Fudenosuke, Fudenosuke, Fudenosuke. 筆のsuke はとってもいいでしょう。You must buy this pen and it will make a very good art. That's my Japanese impersonation. Let's see. B. Zella VT is here. Fabulous. I'm an illustration college student and I've been watching while working on finals. It's been great to listen to it in the background. B, I'm so happy. I can't tell if you're male or female, B, so maybe if I could plug that in. But please tell me more about your illustration work. Very excited to talk about that. What are your inspirations? How did you find my channel? I think that there's a kind of YouTube algorithm. People that are into drawing, learning how to draw comics, etc. My show seems to pop up in those algorithms a lot because I get a lot of, sort of art students from around the world, which is neat. Like I've always loved meeting people from different cultures. Even though I am a very strong voice in the white identity movement, white ethno-nationalism, that doesn't mean I don't like other people or don't want to meet other people or I can't be enriched by people of other cultures. I've always loved that. I've always been interested in that. And I'm sure I will continue to be. It's just that we have a really, really critical cause, and I think that it's the only important thing for me to be doing in the political, cultural sphere. Anyway, let's move on. What do we got here? Let's see. B says, I'd be interested in watching a workshop. Cool. Do you subscribe to this channel? I would hit the little notification bell because I think I should do that. I really think that's a fabulous idea. I'd have to advertise it, and maybe people can shoot me an email to say, like, what's a good time. That's probably the hardest part of it is I've got people all over the world, and I'm on the East Coast in America, so I'm limited in terms of like my days off, and I do a lot of streaming in the nighttime. I should say evening. Excuse me. So I don't know what would be the best time to get the most people, but that would be a discussion. Moody says that's a good idea. Yes. Occult Circus is back. Yo, was lurking playing Arc Raiders. Sweet. Kick ass. Good to see you here, buddy. Thanks for popping in to say hi. Splattercat says, I have to get ready for work. I'll catch you on the next stream if YouTube will let me know. Yeah, I don't know. I think the forces are conspiring against me. But have a good day at work. B says, female, I found the channel just for browsing. I get a lot of artists. Sweet. Yeah, I've been subscribed for a bit. I usually lurk, though, so I've never commented. Well, I'm really happy that you're in the chat, and I'm really anxious to learn about your illustration, what your goals are with illustration, what you're learning. It's kind of like talk shop time, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Woo! I could probably turn the music up a little bit. Yeah, what kind of music do you like, B? What are you into? The new band that I'm kind of sort of trying to start is, I know we haven't really found our identity yet. It's just, there's a new guitar player and he's a young guy. He wanted to do like a shoegazing, sort of emo indie rock type thing. Emo might be a little strong. It's not so much that, but music that is more not loud and angry and yelling and screaming kind of music, but more like music about relationships that went wrong and like, kind of more emotional themes like that, I guess, which I've got plenty of lore in that realm, so I could certainly be a good songwriter. The thing is, I'm not in that place emotionally anymore. I'm not like depressed like I used to be. I've got plenty of reason to be depressed, but I just say fuck it. I'm not gonna waste any more time in my life indulging in the depression. I'm much more into serotonin now. Did you ever hear about serotonin? It's like this chemical that comes out of your brain, dude. Like when you're happy and shit. Best drug ever, dude. Gotta try it. So yeah, I mean, it's you win some, you lose some. You got good days and bad days, but it's just the trajectory that I choose to be on. And what I've discovered, I'm just philosophizing, so bear with me. Musing, as it were. You do create your reality. You do. You really do. And it's not just psychological. There is a metaphysics to it. There is a synchronicity to it. And I'm just trying more and more and more to incorporate that. I think prayer is one of the sort of easiest go-to spiritual technologies, but you can't pray with like a begging, desperate, sad, angry, kind of fearful mind. You have to pray with love, with excitement, with joy. Um, Most of all, gratitude. Gratitude is the secret sauce of manifestation. So that's, you can take that to the bank. Okay, guys? Repeat after me. Gratitude is the secret sauce of manifestation. So, not everything goes right in my life, not everything's perfect, but when you connect to like hermetic principles of frequency, of there's a word for it, but it's escaping me. It's basically the kind of the natural up and down of life. That there will always be an up and down, an up and down, and so even though when you're on a down slope, that is the momentum to push you up to the next phase. So one should never interpret being in like hard luck as kind of bad, but just as part of the flow of existence. And as such, be excited about what's coming and get back to the prayers and the gratitude. And then pretty soon the whatever the low that you were in will pass and you'll move on to the next phase. And you'll have learned something. I mean, I just went through a pretty tough lesson. I had someone I was sort of kind of seeing, we sort of broke up. And I'm not like, crybaby. It hurts. It's not good or whatever. It's sad. But there was something to learn from it. And it was kind of like, okay, here's where she was wrong. Here's where I was wrong. How can I avoid this sort of mistake again? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, I mean, maybe all the time, you don't really learn unless you suffer. I hate to say it, but like suffering is the greatest teacher. And I think there's a level of, I don't know how to say it, like embracing suffering. The right attitude. It's not masochistic, but saying like, thank you for teaching me. So, for example, when you're in the Buddhist temple in Kyoto, Japan, and you're trying to sit still and trying to establish Zen, and your mind just keeps fucking around, and you got monkey mind, and you can't focus. And then the monk with the big wooden staff walks by you, and you tilt your head sideways to tell him, would you please smack my shoulder as hard as you can to help me wake up? And then he ritualistically does so with a big thwack. Hello, good morning, hello. And now you're like, okay, now I am stimulated and I am alive and aware. And thank you so much for that smack that I needed to help me on my spiritual journey. So it's kind of like that, I guess. I know that's one way to look at it. Wow, a lot of chat. I gotta catch up with you, mofos. Hold the press. Holy Shavitskis, there's a lot of chat. I'm way behind. Okay, let's see. Female subscribe. Occult says, glad to hear pre-order is available finally. Excellent. Woohoo! Yes, go grab your copy. It's going to be fun. Rexus says, I know you don't do art, but I have noticed that I know that I don't do art, but I have noticed that my style of writing is similar to bedtime stories on YouTube. Cool. Only difference is that I do fictional stories whilst they cover cryptids on YouTube. Cool beans. I love cryptids, although they scare the hell out of me sometimes. Occult says, yo, check out Tetsuya. He does 4chan stories. He's English, has a great voice, covers a lot of very creepy stuff. Nice. Good call. Very good. Housemaster Kent. Hideous, ladies and gentlemen. My good friend Hideous is in the house. Great to have you here, bro. It's already done. It depends on how you view losing. You can learn from loss. Fabulous. Yes. Any idea about shipping costs for the comic, Donald? Well, that's always a thing. That's like a third party deal. You know what I mean? It's going to be on Amazon, but the publisher they're based out of Canada. So, I don't know what to tell you. I don't it's funny. I actually should have an answer for that. I will inquire with the publisher to see what I can find out about that. Sorry, I don't have an answer for you readily. Would I even get it before Christmas? That's the idea. That's why I'm trying to hustle on these damn pages. Get this shit out. Sorry. B says, it's been hard to describe my art recently since this year my classes have been having us to do a lot. Digital painting, book cover, editorial comics class, but I love lots of small details. Okay. B says, I was meant to answer that a while ago, but my cat decided it was time to make a mess everywhere. Cats do that. I'm not hating on cats, but I'm really more of a dog man. Dog man. Donald Kent. Dog man. Yeah, I gotta have some, I gotta be able to wrestle, you know. You can't really wrestle with cats, right? Occult says, with something like this, I'd prefer to support the source, but when would it be on Amazon? Is pre-order available? Da da da. So the pre-order for now will go directly to the publishing company. I'm sure they're going to want to handle the sales and make the lion's share of the profit because Amazon takes a pretty big chunk. I know that because of my own book, Imperium Calling, which you can also purchase if you like. That's on Amazon. I do have my own publisher, but he's not really equipped for all that, like stocking books and the shipping and the dee-da-da-doo-doos and all that stuff. So, on the homepage of this YouTube, there is a link to kentart.weebly.com, and that's where you'll find my book, Imperium Art, if you so choose. If you choose to take this mission, go to that link. I'm so excited about my new variety show that I'm going to be putting out. Since it's featuring the arts of the white identity culture and the nationalist culture, there's going to be a lot of fun media. And so I ran like a test broadcast on this channel with just showing stuff, different video and this and that. And it was very laggy. So if anybody has advice on how to, you know, run StreamYard without it being laggy, that would be helpful because I don't want the show to constantly have this problem. I want a quality show. I'm gonna have guests on from this sphere. There's so many people out there doing like amazing reels and music and just great stuff. So it's a kind of a celebration of nationalist culture. That's the idea. And it's not going to be exclusively, just kind of like creators in the white identity sphere, but any nationalist. You know, I don't know that anybody would totally agree with this, but like I do feel that nationalists of different cultures and countries are, ideologically, we should support each other. Like if we're gonna want people to respect our indigenous rights, what have you, then we should do the same for others. I think that would, otherwise it's kind of hypocritical. But yeah, I don't, in the show's going to be all, Europe, America, Canada, Australia, all of the Western countries. That'll be the focus. So it's not going to have like Japanese nationalists on there or something like that. But I'm just saying, ideologically. Wow, this is coming out pretty neat. All right, let's check it out. Thank you, Splattercat. I appreciate that. That is super cool. That's my main man right there. I'm reading comments. Occult says, with something like this, I'd prefer to support. I read that. Rexus says, cats love making messes. I'm actually pretty surprised my cat is well behaved with the Christmas tree. What's your deadline? My deadline is yesterday. No. I mean, the sooner I get it out, I really only have like maybe 3 more pages to do, I believe. So what is it? We're like a day or 2 away from December. So I should get this done in a relatively short period of time. So I'm not terribly worried about it, but my thinking is I'd like this out like 2 weeks before Christmas, ideally. But we still have to get this to the colorist and the letterer. It's just crunch time, it's crunch time, so time to get moving. This music is kind of G-H-E-Y. I need something with a little more oomph. So give me a second here. I'll try some different music here. That's like sad music. I'm not doing the sad thing right now. So this is good. All right. So we had a little band get together thing yesterday. Like I said, still sort of working out the ideas. Excuse me. I write songs, and I've got my own themes and nationalism and politics and this and that. But this project is more like a friend project, where we have 2 buddies, drummer, guitar player, and I want the guitar player to be the lead in terms of writing the songs, like come with ideas. I have tons of ideas. I already have ideas. But if we're gonna work together, you gotta bring it. You know what I'm saying? Rexus says, but most cats use Odyssey Live. So I I don't, but the reasons why are just too complex and irritating to explain, so I'm not going to. I'm on YouTube, obviously, but I plan to broadcast on Twitter and DLive. And then maybe, what was the other one? Maybe like see if I can get it over on Gab. I've got a Gab that I almost never use. I've got a Parlor that I never use. I gotta figure that out. But yeah, the biggest reach you can get, I think, is generally what you want. This music's a little loud though, but it's fun. So, any words on the cartoon? I see vids on the new Delphi Media YouTube. Excellent. How many copies would be printed in the beginning? Lo-fi maxing. That's right, brother. Well, it's print on demand, so somebody orders it, and we print a copy and send it to them. You know what I'm saying? But they're gonna, we're gonna eventually get these into bookstores. It's just full on. It's full on. There is talk of doing like an animated series. The animations that you see currently on, what do you call it, on Twitter are in-house. We've got an amazing media guy that's making those, and I'm just kind of mind blown, basically. I love it. We did discuss possibly, seeing about how we could do our own animated story. I gotta say, in a sense, I kind of hate to say this, but like, time is money, and this is a hell of a lot of work. This is a lot of time commitment on my part to translate the scripts into visuals, to produce these pages. This is not a small thing at all. This is really, it's a whole world, unto itself. So you can't do this for free. There has to be compensation. So a lot of it kind of depends on that. I think that there's, whatever the publisher's willing to invest could have, an impact on my decisions. Obviously, I want this to work, and I have obviously like a vested interest or whatever, an invested interest, what have you. We'll see. I can't really pull out the crystal ball and tell you what exactly is coming. But obviously, I'm, you know, gonna do whatever needs to be done to make this successful. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, make it successful, man. this reggae music. Some years ago, I had this job with these. I don't know what they're not. They weren't exchange students. They were like foreign workers, and they were just there for the summer. It wasn't like illegal aliens or something. And there were a bunch of them from Jamaica. So I took them around town, gave them a tour of the city, a little taste of America, and yeah. So what is in the chat? That's better. Okay. Yeah. Music's better for sure. But yeah, we winter is here. We are in the zone. There's a big storm coming in. It's coming from across the Great Plains of America and bringing with it cold and misery. So brace yourselves. This is kind of what art is for in a lot of ways. Is it just, it's just a great way to get through the weather, like the winter. Yeah. I encourage everybody to have some kind of artistic practice that they could do if it's writing, drawing, painting, music. Oops, sorry, I'm way off camera here. Get back. I gotta maybe move the camera. Can I do that? Sort of, but not really. Reading Illuminus is here. Illumin Fortus is here. Excellent. Bonsoir. Bonsoir, mon ami. This is a time when I wish I could speak French. I'll tell my story again. It's one of the lore of Donald Kent. So I'm part French on my mother's side, and so if you've heard this story before, don't be mad at me. So for years I was just, I can't wait can't wait until I can take French language in high school so that I can learn French because I'm part French. Yay. And I always had this love affair with and I don't know, it's a sort of an American thing. I think that we think of France and French culture in a very idealized way. That it's like high culture. Obviously, the arts are a huge thing. Like, if you look at the history of painting, the French had a massive, massive contribution to that. And, I don't know, it was a sort of a borrowed pride that I had. So I just, as a kid, I was like, I just can't wait to, get to that point where I can choose French and learn French in high school. Yay, so the year comes in high school and I'm dating this girl and she's taking Spanish and she's like, "Oh, don't take French, take Spanish. It's easy and I'll like help you with your homework." So being young and stupid, what did I do? I signed up for Spanish. And then that summer, in between whatever the two grades were, seventh, eighth, nine, I don't remember, we broke up. So I got fucked. I had to spend the next year taking Spanish when next door they're learning French, and I'm like, damn it, this is so angry. I'm still angry about it. I'm still angry about it. I really am. So like, it's just been a thing where I'm like, oh, one of these days I'll start learning French, but who the hell's got the time for that? I have one French friend that I can speak to, but he is one of my best friends, though. I adore him. So, I don't know, maybe I should try. Maybe I should try. Huh. Okay. Rexus says, it's finally snowed in my area. It doesn't snow like how it used to in Utah. Wow. I didn't, Utah must get pretty freaking cold, though. I'm honestly really starting to see why my friend says weather controllers are real. Oh, I've done a lot of research on that. HAARP, look up HAARP. It's terrifying. Yeah, there's absolutely, definitely there's plenty of evidence for that. It's not like tinfoil hat shit. There's definite weather warfare and weather manipulation out there for sure. I learned a new word today, apatheia. Put this in your bonnet. Apatheia. What is apatheia? It's not ignorance. It's it's how do I call it? It's willful ignorance, meaning I'll give you an example. I'm talking with like a Trump supporter friend who's a hardcore Trump supporter, and I explained, and he's like, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic, and you're blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Look, dude, you would be too if you knew the truth, if you knew the data." And I don't really buy into the term anti-Semitic. It's just a form of silencing people from criticizing Israel. So it's a non-word, really. It's meaningless, like racism and blah blah blah, all that other leftist shit. So I'm like, listen, you you figured it out. You figured out that whatever, the Democrats are lying and this and that, and you took the red pill, you took the Trump pill, when it was that time, and so now there's new data, and let me show you the data, and he's like, I won't look at it. I don't care what you send me. I'm not even going to look at it. That is apatheia. You see, and I said, okay, so what you're telling me is you're choosing your own ego over the truth, that you would rather not admit you're wrong because I have the data to prove that you're wrong. But instead of, again, looking at the data, you'd be like, nope, la 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 la, like close your eyes and ears, and willful ignorance, apatheia. Socrates says that's like one of the greatest evils of all. That like when people are willfully ignorant, then that is like one of the greatest evils. That's profound. That's quite profound, And I'm a pretty strong, believer in that. Like I met this leftist at a party recently. I was talking about my lawyer friend and his party, and this kind of artist dude was there, and so we were sitting nearby each other and just got to talking about art and sharing our art. And he saw my Donald Kent art, and there's lots of symbols in there that show, I'm right wing for sure, and so I was like, if you could do anything, what would you do? Like, if you kind of like, the $1 million question, like, what would you do if you were free? And he says, oh, I would do like a graphic novel that is about my political views on the world. And I'm like, oh wow, tell me more. And he goes, oh well, yeah, it's not like it's the opposite of yours. And like, so like that was his way of saying like I'm a lefty, And he looked the part. Like he totally looked the part. He wasn't like, there's just a certain style that they have, and like the way that they carry themselves and all that other shit. Like just pretty much a douchebag. But I was being nice and trying to be friends, and learn from him and whatever. But I got to one of the first things he was saying is like, the powers that be, the evil white men who run corporations, they want us to be separate from each other and fighting each other. So I'm like, okay, well, have you heard of third position? Because that's where the left and the right can come together and, talk about, because we have the same enemies. It's just, we're trapped in this kind of dialectical prison, and, socialism for the people in the National Socialist sense, and something. I'm trying to have like, I'm just experimenting with like, how far can I take the conversation with this guy, before he like dweebs out on me or whatever. But yeah, and I finally got to the point where it's like, look, the left and the right are unified against Israel right now. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And he was like, well, I don't know anything about it. And I'm like, what the fuck? How can you hold these views and not be educated on this topic? And I'm like, do you know about the what do you call them, the Young Turks? And he's like, it's kind of, sort of. Well, okay, they're kind of leading this path where the right and the left are uniting against Israel and da 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 da. And then he just immediately sort of shrugged it off, like, no. And so he doesn't want, he doesn't want peace. You see what I'm saying? It's like, there's a phrase I heard recently about, like, they call you Nazis so that they can harm you. If I call you a bad name, then that justifies me doing violence on you. That's what the left is. You know what I'm saying? And so it's generally a cult. I mean, there used to be legitimate, like, classical liberalism, and that's gone. These people have been, socially engineered by the Marxists, cultural Marxists. So I was really disappointed that, he's basically a bad actor, kind of, like, I think you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, let's move on, but not surprised. So let's read. Occult Circus says, that's a whole thing, bro. Snow was a thing every year when I was young. I've gotten older, it's not as frequent. Okay, well, that's good for you. Illuminatus says, sorry, hold on. It was my worst subject at school, and I moved here and didn't have a choice. Yikes. Same, Utah has practically become the reverse Siberia. 11 months of summer and 1 month worth of winter. Oh, that's crazy. Maybe I'll move there. If you want good French album, Saudade by Thievery Corporation is good. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. Occult says it's like this sort of music. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool. B says, oh, yeah, I remember hearing about harp. It's crazy. Not caring. Okay. Emotional blackmail. That's what we call it. Those words mean nothing, but they still have power because they sound like nasty words to be called, like a false and spiteful accusation. 100%, bro. You nailed it so hard. Rexus says many people have been calling for a third party or third option, yet what they want is not third position. It's either Mamdani or Elon Musk. So both of those guys are Israeli operatives. So true third position, which is Mussolini, Franco, Adolf Hitler, and others, they're historically ghettoized by Jewish Marxist dialectic, so that you cannot even look at, research, or understand any of that. Like it's like on the map in in old days, where they haven't discovered the world, they'd say, there be dragons, or you'll if you ride your ship there, you'll fall off the earth. You'll fall off the edge of the earth. So that's essentially what's become of third position, is, there be dragons, don't go there, don't learn about it. So every single chance that I get, I urge people to go to rumble.com/cultured thug. Oh, yeah. So Cultured Thug is a friend of mine, and he is the resident expert on third position. He's publishing books on it. He's totally dedicated his life to it. He's extraordinary, and I adore him. So it's very, very literally. Let's back up. So what is third position? It's neither communism nor capitalism. It's the only historic ideology, political ideology system that has literally been for the people, whereas communism and capitalism are either for governments or corporations. They appear to be for the people, they say they're for the people, blah de blah 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 blah. It's all packaging, folks. It's all packaging. So, those kind of oligarchical powers do not want the people to take control of their destiny, to use these systems that bypass them and their power. And so that's why they're very, very, very carefully controlling the narrative so that nobody knows what fascism and National Socialism actually are. When people say fascism or Nazi, etc., what they really mean to say is authoritarianism or totalitarianism. Now, let's say this. How do I put this? It's kind of like a father figure. So if the child is, let's say your 13-year-old son comes home with a pack of cigarettes hidden in his book bag, and you punish him, and you send him to his room and something, and then a week later you catch him doing it again. So maybe, you see where I'm going with this? So then the punishment has to get harder. And like for little children, maybe they get spanked. It's the father looks evil in this case from the child's point of view. But there's an argument for being authoritative in certain cases where it is beneficial to the people. So, for example, you do not try to cooperate or live with evil, you destroy it. Evil is in itself a kind of cancer that will just come back. And until you cut it out and remove it utterly and forever, then it'll just continue coming back and plaguing you and rotting you out from within. So the death penalty, for example, for that might look authoritative or totalitarian or something. But again, if it's for protecting the people from systems and actors, bad actors, that ultimately want to install communism and or other forms of Jewish hegemony, then you have to be the father. Does that make sense? You have to be authoritative. So I do not personally, let's look at it this way. When the American government uses the CIA to go into foreign countries, cause them to fall, and then install their own leaders, that's totalitarianism. That's authoritarianism. You see what I'm saying? So you can't say that this is and that isn't, protecting democracy, blah, 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 that's just total bullshit. You know what I mean? So there's just so much obfuscation. It's hard to say that word. There's just so much bullshit, out there in the way that people don't understand what's going on. And that confusion is running interference for the you-know-whos and their systems. So, because they play both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat. And now what you have are Mossad that have like white nationalist not websites, like social media pages. So you've got players like BAP, who is basically a gay Jew who pretends to be like this based weightlifting white guy, but he's it's fake, so that he can attract potential white nationalists and walk him down the primrose path to nowhere. It's gatekeeping, you see. So I'm telling you, man, we are swimming in an ocean of psyops, and it's really really hard to identify the truth. Really really hard. Let's move forward. Let me see. Musk, Rexus says, or evil bad guy. Flight Form Syracuse did put it best in why those words lost meaning. They were depicted in Hollywood comics and in the case of Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus video games. Wow, really fascinating. Even back in the 20s, those ideologies were vilified. This war that we've been having, this civilizational war with the you-know-whos, I mean, it's been going on for centuries. You can see it through different lenses, through the lens of Christianity, through the lens of communism versus capitalism. But our enemies are brilliant at this game, and our people have been sedated and kind of drugged by these lies for a very long time, and that's the fight that we're in. It's bad, things are bad, which is why we're still in the fight. That's so weird. You feel an itch, and you look, where is the itch, and there's nothing there. That's such a strange feeling. Boy, I'm just going off today. I'm all over the place. It's the Philosophical Show by Donald Kent. I actually plan on having a segment for Cultured Thug on my new show, so that each show I can have like a real small segment talking about Third Position, and then leading people to his page, advertising his books, and like he's psyched about that. I really strongly urge everyone watching this show to scroll around this YouTube channel and look for the show titled "What Is Fascism?" That is an interview I did with Cultured Thug, and it's excellent. It's really really good. What I find actually is that this leftist dialectic is really just the kind of dialectical weapons of white hatred, because the driving fuel behind leftism is hatred of white people. It's the driving force. If you get down to the bottom of it, you'll find that it's always about that. All this like, oh, we have to decolonize, or what? Well, what does that mean? Oh, we have to have equity and inclusion. What does that mean? Really? All of it means kill whitey. All of it means that. It's just, and you can't say that, so, you can put it in some fancy academic terms instead. And then it's okay. Then you can say it. Then you can sell books about it. Don't kill Whitey quite yet. First rape his women and steal all his money and land. And It's like decolonized by stealing everything that the white man ever built. It's racial hatred on acid, for real. My in my algorithm, I've been seeing these clips of, they're basically like college professors and far left organizers talking about how they can radicalize college students to do violence, and and how that the most important thing that they all have to do is to destroy America. They openly talk about this at their conferences, in their Zoom calls. It's not a secret, but they're in such a coddled environment where they can say that openly among each other and not get or feel any kind of pushback, any kind of like punishment. It's disturbing. It's terrifying. It's quite terrifying. What's frustrating is that that's what they claim we're doing, and we're not doing that. To my knowledge, I'm not affiliated with any kind of groups that call for violence and try to train people to infiltrate systems for such a purpose. This is kind of my message, is that like if you're a nationalist, then you would believe that everybody has a place. It's just that we're not in the same place. These people belong here and these people belong there because that's their country and this is our country. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if everybody jives with that or not, but that's what I'm thinking. Third position, I don't know. That's a tricky question. I think that Mussolini was probably imperial or colonial in his thinking. He was a very warring kind of person. What's crazy though is that like Africans that were enlisted in the Italian army for their campaigns in North Africa, they adored Mussolini. They loved him and his message and have incredible pride in what they did, what they stood for. It's kind of crazy. I mean, it's neat in a sense that like they saw that as an upgrade to their world. That they recognized that you know the Italians would bring prosperity to an otherwise desperately poor country. What's his name? Jared Taylor talks about when he was young and he was traveling in West Africa, going to French countries to practice his French. And I forget the names of the countries, but one was like an ex-French colony, and the other one was not, and they're right next door to each other in West Africa. And so Jared Taylor crosses the border, is checking out this other country, and he notices the extreme poverty, just like mud streets, no electricity, just pure shit, basically. And he talks to one of the Africans in that country, like, why is it so poor over here? Like, right over the border, they have cars and health and hospitals and TVs and food, and they're fine. but you guys don't, and you're right next door to each other. Like, what's the problem? And the African he spoke to said, we didn't have the benefit of colonization, of European colonization. And like, Jared Taylor brings up that story every once in a while. Like, it's stunning how. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I don't have to keep beating the point. It's like when you ask a black person, like, would you rather have been born in America or in Africa? And they'll always say America. And then immediately after that, you say, well, then you benefited from slavery. Oh man, they hate that. they hate that. But not all of them. Some black people that I've said that to were like, you're right. Yeah. Damn, I'm glad I'm not living in a grass hut right now, And it's wild. Now, I fucking hate slavery. And I'm not like saying, yay, slavery. That's bullshit. And not only that, it was the Jews that controlled the slave trade. Africans sold other Africans, and white people put an end to slavery. So I don't feel any responsibility to slavery whatsoever. In fact, I would say if I have anything to say, I should say I'm proud that my people were the ones that stopped it here. Now, slavery still exists in the world, obviously, we know that. If you really cared about it, then you would try to stop that. But no, I just want to shit on white people. That's my whole purpose. Anyway. What do we got? I don't know. I think I need to. Let's read some comments. Let's do that. Not a lot. Rexus says, that's the part I always found odd. They describe people like us as lesser than human, and we somehow deserve it because of World War II. Even back when I didn't agree with those ideologies, I thought it was incredibly fucked up that they view those people like that. Well, it's just hypocrisy. I mean, this is what I mean about bad actors. It's like you say, oh, love and peace and harmony and justice, but then when you try to extend an olive branch or whatever, then it's fuck whitey. That's the actual agenda. Then again, people never understood why I was understanding to why people believe in third position and didn't despise them for it, even back when I didn't agree with those ideologies. So there's all kinds of nuances. It's not, how do I put this? It's not like some kind of cutout, cookie cutter ideology. Like it's case by case. Like every culture is going to have its own version of it. Italian third position is very different from German third position because it's ethnically, racially rooted, if that makes sense. So, who are the Germans? How are they different from the Italians? You could see how that would play out. So if there were such a thing as an American third position, what would it look like? That's a fascinating concept. That would be an exciting conversation. My take, straight out of the gate, would be to have, how do I put it? Oh boy, this is hard to explain. My vision for like a healthy, happy, constructive, functional America in the future would be where there would be options of ethnostates, where you would have people who were born and raised here over more than 3 generations are going to have their own states, communities, to live among their people and retain the homogenous value of their culture. And they'll run their own spaces, you see. So, and obviously, you know, so that would be like a black ethno state, an Asian ethno state, a Hispanic ethno state, with freedom of association, which would mean you can come and go, in certain zones where it's agreed upon that people want to interact with each other in those locations. America used to be majority white, and so we didn't have the issue of like forced what do you call it, diversity. And so we're the ones that are harmed by diversity. Diversity hurts white people. Now prior to that, or in a more balanced society, diversity per se is not necessarily harmful and could even be good in the sense that, you can just have, I'm talking like restaurants and shit, I'm not talking like, or any kind of cultural exchange. Somebody wants to learn African dance, or maybe they're really into jazz and they want to go to a place where they can work with, say, black jazz musicians, or maybe it's a sports thing or something like that. So I'm not talking on like a super deep level, but just on a simple level where people can engage with friendships, business, whatever, as they see fit, because they have freedom of association. But we also need freedom of disassociation, or freedom to self segregate. So that's, for white people, everything. That is the key to our survival. I don't think I need to explain that to this audience. You guys are in the know. So that's kind of how I envision it. Obviously, it's a pretty deep topic. Rexus says, I honestly see us getting something closer to Franco and Salazar's style of third position from the Iberian Peninsula. I'm aware of those things, but I'm not as knowledgeable about them as Italian and German third position, so it's not something I can speak intelligently on. If Cultured Thug were here, he would dive right in. He'd dive right in on that. Syndicalism, I think it's called. It's exciting to me because there's a lot to learn. I mean, literally, try to imagine everyone in society being healthy, everybody in society being cared for, community, families, like big families, culture. I mean, it's utopian. This ideology is utopian. So right now, it's like, I have to struggle to survive, and I can't afford to have a house, so how can I have a family? And the options of entertainment that we're given to kill the pain of modernity is filth, or entertainment that is like doesn't represent us. Like you watch a sports game, how many white guys are there on the team now? You see where I'm going with all this? It's like all of those factors. Oh boy. All right, so I'm kind of feeling like I might call it a day on this show just because it's been a really long show. And I'm a little fatigued. I need to grab some food. But yeah, it's an hour and a half or so, I guess, almost. I honestly see us getting. Okay, any last comments? Any questions? Any reactions? If you think I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong or how I'm wrong. Open my mind. Leave a comment. If you're listening to this show, after the live broadcast, leave some comments. Challenge me. I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, on that note, I will say God bless you all. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day. Really grateful to all the people that came and the cool interactions. Love you guys. Be good. Say your prayers and stay in a state of gratitude. Gratitude gives grace. Amen.